Our next speaker is Chris Manor. Chris Manor put an incredible amount of work into this rally, so please give it up for him. He is an activist and organizer. He's a member of the Revolutionary Students Union, and in his spare time, he studies philosophy and mathematics. Give it up for Chris Manor. Here we go.
Everybody, can you hear me? Thank you all for being here today. I come to you, I speak to you today about the ongoing harassment of anti-war and international solidarity activists in the United States by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. On September 24, 2010, activists in Chicago, Minneapolis, and Grand Rapids had their homes raided by federal agents. Computers, cell phones, passports, personal photos, and even children's artwork were seized in the raid. These activists were served grand jury subpoenas where they will be interrogated by federal prosecutors without their Fifth Amendment protection. In the month of December, 9 more activists were subpoenaed, including women from Palestine. At this point, I am proud to report that all of these activists are actively refusing the grand jury proceedings. This harassment echoes the bygone era of the Espionage Act, the Sedition Act, McCarthyism, and COINTELPRO. The United States government has declared those who resist its foreign policy to be its enemies and has shown unrestrained and rapacious violence against them. We need only look at the tragic histories of South America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Moreover, the U.S. has unleashed the FBI as a weapon of repression against its own citizens who courageously have spoken out against its barbarous policies. We need only glance at our own history to see the results of this weapon as it was used against the Black Panthers, the American Indian Movement, Students for a Democratic Society, and all those who have stood against the imperialist grain. Whether it's called the Espionage Act, the Sedition Act, COINTELPRO, or the name that it goes by today, the Patriot Act, these policies constitute an explicit attack on the voices of dissent in this country. The FBI is trying to build a case to accuse these activists of providing material support for foreign terrorist organizations. These are groups like the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. These activists stand on the side of oppressed victims of U.S. imperialism around the world. Much like ourselves today, they say no to the occupations of Iraq and Afghanistan. They demand an end to all U.S. interventions abroad, including the secret wars that are now taking place in Yemen, Pakistan, the Philippines, Colombia, and India. They call for an end to the endless billions of dollars dumped into countries like Israel, Egypt, and Colombia. These billions of dollars are not sent to build schools. They are not spent to build hospitals. This comes directly in the form of military aid. They demand that all oppressed nations be given the right to determine their own destinies, independent of any American agendas. Sending countries reparations for the damages caused by the American war machine should be the only foreign policy the U.S. shows towards the rest of the world. I call upon each and every one of you today to show solidarity, not only with the oppressed people internationally, but with our comrades here who are fighting back. Our comrades have shown us that we can be effective in our struggles to change this world. We must be there to stand behind them. I ask that you contact Attorney General Eric Holder and demand of the U.S. federal government the following. Demand that they stop the repression of anti-war and international solidarity activists. Demand that they immediately return all confiscated materials, their computers, cell phones, papers, and other documents. And the grand jury proceedings against anti-war activists. For more information, I implore all of you to visit stopfbi.net and get involved in solidarity work with these people. By incurring the wrath of the American war machine, those activists have shown us that it is nothing more than what Mao called it years ago, a paper tiger. By organizing ourselves in great numbers, we can top this American war machine from the inside and stop it from murdering our brothers and sisters on the outside. When they attempt to silence and lock up those who fight back, we must be there to carry on the struggle to end these imperialist wars. Just like in Egypt, just like Wisconsin, when the people stand together, the people will not be intimidated, the people will not be defeated. I call on all of you to get organized. join the Revolutionary Students Union as we lead the charge against these bloody wars. As a final note, I just want to point out that the United States has now basically declared war on Libya. They have claimed that they need to establish a no-fly zone in Libya. Here's something that's interesting to keep in mind. Where's the no-fly zone in Pakistan where drone attacks routinely happen?
That's right.
Last year in 2010, 111 drone attacks in Pakistan on civilians. This year there have been 18 so far. So, the people united will never be defeated.
All right, last but certainly not least, we have the Veterans for Peace speaking to us. Everybody, put your hands together.
Like all the Veterans for Peace to come up, the Veterans for Peace, Vietnam vets against the war, Iraq vets against the war, and come up and stand behind me here. You'll find that this is quite a large group of people. And Nathaniel, oh, he's signing the petition. Okay. Basically today, March 19th, we are marching in solidarity with our brothers who organized civil disobedience in Washington, D.C., who are now in front of the White House. Author Chris Hedges, Daniel Ellsberg, and many other veterans are there today. So we're marching in solidarity with them. In view of the world events which have just occurred in Tokyo, I'd like us all to have a moment of silence for the victims of the tsunami and those who are being affected by the nuclear meltdown. Thank you very much. We have to realize that we are people. The military family is a group of people, a special group to me. I've been working with them and helping them with their benefits and many other items and answering calls on the GI Rights hotline. Back when I got my draft notice, Tricky Dicky, alias Richard M. Nixon, was the President of the United States. His Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, said to, at that time, his White House Chief of Staff, General Alexander Haig, military men are just dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns in foreign policy. The same policy continues today, cloaked in blind nationalism and patriotism. These policies exact a high cost in young men and women. We're all familiar with the story of former Arizona Cardinal football player Pat Tillman, who became an Army Ranger and was killed by his own men in a fratricide and has his funeral used as political theater. We are less familiar with West Point ethics professor Colonel Ted Westhusing, who committed suicide after becoming disillusioned with the money-grubbing contractors in Iraq. Very few know of specialist Alyssa Peterson, an LDS returned missionary and psychology graduate of Northern Arizona University, who was an Arab linguist, saw firsthand the torture handed out in Abu Ghraib interrogations, and then committed suicide. I would say if you're not appalled, then you're not paying attention. Why? The answer lies in globalization and militarism as two sides of the same coin, fomented by Wall Street investment banks and wealthy investors. In 1933, two-time Marine Corps Medal of Honor winner General Smedley Butler, and we have a sign out there somewhere, war is a racket. He basically said there are two things we should go to war for. One is defense, and the other is the Bill of Rights. War for any other reason is simply a racket. In his very short pamphlet book, War is a Racket, he said, I was a racketeer, a gangster for capitalism. A high-class muscle man for big business and Wall Street. Thanks, Athena. Some of us are kind of short, what can we say? Doesn't mean we're not mean. And some of us are still lean and green. All right. Bad joke. All right, gotta get serious again, damn it. All right, we've wasted 8 years in Iraq, as of today, and 10 years in Afghanistan with trillions of dollars. Again, for what? Massive privatized defense contracts to Halliburton, Khaki, Aegis, Lockheed Martin, DynCorp, and Blackwater. Last year, the Pentagon budget topped $700 billion. I'm all for supporting the troops, but not the war. The financial meltdown was caused by Wall Street investment bank hedge fund managers who sold adjustable rate mortgages, credit card debt, student loans, and even state pension funds packaged up as derivatives to investors, bet short on them, in other words, against them, and walked away with billions as the real estate market had plummeted downward. Congress, if you want to balance the budget, cut some of that sacred Pentagon pork. Since everything that affects us from Tokyo to Wisconsin, I won't call him governor, I just call him Scott Walker. From Wisconsin, we see how you are catering to your teabagging friends to cover the billionaire Koch brothers funding Dick Armey's Freedom Works to elect Republicans in 2012 and to eviscerate unions and public employees all over the guise of fiscal responsibility. Blame the real robber barons on Wall Street. Hey Scott, we get it, and we ain't backing down. I like to include everybody in my family. To my teabagging friends, you want to take back your country? How far back do you want to go? 1965, the Civil Rights and Voting Act? 1918, women's right to vote? 1865, the Civil War and freeing of the slaves. Maybe that Constitutional Convention in 1787. I'd love to have a debate on that. My point is, no more redacting, no more rewriting history. Anyway, my favorite revolutionary, his name is Thomas Paine. He wrote a pamphlet that caused the Civil War, basically, to foment, and some of you are very familiar with it, it's called Common Sense. However, in Valley Forge, when we all seen a picture of Washington sitting with his horse, kneeling in the snow, praying that somehow inspiration will come, well, Thomas Paine was writing another pamphlet called The American Crisis. And he was able to inspire the troops so that they crossed the river and were able to win the Battle of Trenton. And in that pamphlet, he writes some very profound words. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from the service of their country. But he that stands it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. This is where I'm at now. I practice Buddhism as a spirituality. So we're all related to everything that happens. So this is kind of where I'm coming from. The army that can defeat terrorism doesn't wear uniforms or drive Humvees or call in airstrikes. It doesn't have a high command, high security, or a high budget. The army that can defeat terrorism does battle quietly, clearing minefields and vaccinating children. It undermines military dictatorships and military lobbyists. It subverts sweatshops and special interests. Where people feel powerless, it helps them organize for change. And where people feel powerful, it reminds them of their responsibility. We are here to afflict the comfortable and to comfort the afflicted. Support the troops, bring them home now, and take care of them when they get here.